Hey guys, Firegrass here. Today I'm bringing you a video regarding the Awakener 7 Atlas strategy that I've been doing on stream the last few days. A number of you have asked for the video for it, especially since I have to keep re-explaining it on stream, so this is probably the most appropriate way to go about it. Now, just to get one thing out before we get into it, this is not the highest amount of profit per hour that you can make at the moment. High investment watchstone strategy is probably going to be better. However, this strategy is applicable to pretty much all players. It's very low maintenance. It's very low investment. You have very small amounts of micromanagement of your Atlas, and you don't need to... The great thing about this strategy is that you don't need to think a lot when you're doing it. It's just you set it up, and then you can pretty much go from there. You only have to move watchstones around a few times an hour, and nothing major. So the gist of the strategy here is that once you've unlocked all your watchstones, you're going to pick the 4 regions that you don't want to run based on the Atlas passives that you feel are not the most profitable. Now, in this video, I'm going to make some recommendations, and I'll show you what they are. So we're going to take 1 out of Turn's End, 1 out of Lex Proxima, 1 out of Lex Ajoris, and 1 out of Lyra Arthane. Now, just to be clear, you don't have to do it like this. You just pick the 4 regions that you want to run and the 4 that you don't, and then you take 1 watchstone out of each of them. That's going to drop your Awakener level to level 7. Now, dropping down to level 7 from level 8 cuts you out. Only 0.5% chance for a Shaper Guardian and an Elder Guardian map, each map you run. That equates to a combined total of like a 1% chance per map, or you're losing 1 map every 100. And given that they go for around 20C at the moment, you're losing about 1/5 of a chaos by doing this per map. Now, that's no big deal, but there are a lot of benefits that come with it, especially when you have just hit Awakener 8 and you have a very small map pool. So the main benefit of it is that you're cutting down the size of your Atlas so that you can only drop maps from regions that you want to run, and in addition to this, if you spawn 1 Conqueror in each of the 4 regions that you can run, the only maps that will then drop from then on are maps that give you Conqueror progression. And that's the main reason for this strategy. When you first hit Awakener 8, if you were to say proc a Conqueror in Lex Proxima, let's say you proc Baran in Lex Proxima, but then you find you only have 2 or 3 Lex Proxima maps left, right? You then go and run them, and you're halfway to then fighting Baran. But now you have to go run other maps until you can farm enough Lex Proxima maps, and out of 8 regions, you have a 1 in 8 chance of dropping a Lex Proxima map each time a map drops. So after that, you would say spawn another Conqueror in Turn's End, another one in Glenach Cairns, another one in Valdo's Rest. But, of course, you now only have a 1 in 2 chance of dropping a map that has a Conqueror in it. So you have to run twice as many maps to finish off your Conquerors from that initial Cirrus cycle. And this continues on, and it's going to slow down your initial Cirrus kills as you go. Additionally, farming the 10 boss invitations from Maven is very profitable, particularly at the start of a league. So the Maven invitation fights can drop Orbs of Unmaking, which are currently going for about 10C each. Crescent Splinters, which are usually going for around 7C each. And then you have Watchstones. The cheapest ones only drop for about 15C, but some of the more expensive ones, such as there's one in Lyra Arthane that at the time of making this video is going for around 80C, and there are others that are going for 50C. So when you do an Awakener 8 strategy where you just have all your watchstones in, it's very hard to start doing these boss invitations because your map pool is just split across all 164 maps in the Atlas, and you'll be able to progress them, but a lot slower, typically. Now, one thing that needs to be said, when we're doing the Awakener 7 strategy, you're not going to be favoriting maps. Favoriting maps makes it much harder to get this 10 boss fight bar done, because you're dropping maps focused in... You're dropping the maps that you want to run, and you're dropping lots of them, but none of the ones that you don't want to run, and that means... And you can only progress this bar if you're running different maps, right? You can't run, for example, 10 atolls and fill this bar up. 10 atolls is still only going to give you 1 bar of progression here. Now, I'll just show you a bit of what the drop pool looks like. So I've assorted this stash, and this is a stash I've been running this strategy with. And this is typically what you can expect. So you get a lot of raw currency from ultimatums. You have your Awakener drops here. You have Awaken support gems, which are going to drop from both Conquerors and Cirrus. You have some watchstones, Misinformation, for example, I dropped worth 2x. You're going to get some blighted maps along the way if you bother doing your blights. You're going to get Guardian maps. Somehow I didn't drop any Shaper Guardians, but 8 Elder Guardians, but that's okay. You have the Maven stuff here. You're going to get a nice assortment of Splinters and Scarabs as well, and then some other currencies and lots of other maps. Now, let's talk about the specific regions we're going to be running. So I think the first two, and the ones that you should always run, are Hayward Hamlet and New Vestir. And with good reason, right? So the new ritual stuff in Hayward Hamlet is really insane. Ritual bases are worth quite a lot of money, and this node in particular allows them to show up much more frequently. Additionally, so what I think the special rewards thing is that when you put a ritual vessel into a map, you get ritual, but you also get and much more valuable rewards from that ritual reward window. And I think that with Paid in Blood on your Atlas passives, you're always getting that window whenever it pops up in Hayward Hamlet. And popping it in Hayward Hamlet also means that you're getting increased chance for rituals whenever you run a map. So I think the new base percentage is 8. With Sacred Lands, it's now 18%, so you're getting a ritual almost 1 in every 5 maps, which is really, really nice, especially since you're getting the increased rewards. Next up, we have Essence. Essence is still incredibly insane. You can bulk sell essences for 1 to 3C in bulk, depending on what tier they are and what type. And this node makes sure that there's an essence in every single map. And this map effectively triples your essences. By moving your essences up a tier, that's the equivalent of multiplying all your essence drops by 3. So this branch is insane, and this branch is insane. For your last point, you have choices between Betrayal or Harvest. Harvest is probably slightly better money. However, many of you don't like Harvest, and I personally am kind of a bit tired of running Harvest. I find it's very disruptive to mapping, and I particularly don't like spending 2 to 3 minutes in the Sacred Grove and then getting absolutely nothing for my time. This, on the other hand, is going to let you passively farm up June missions faster, and that's beneficial for the Valdo strategy, which I'm going to talk about later on. Next up, New Vestir. The Legion stuff is still insane. It was nerfed and one of the nodes were moved around, but you're still getting insane value from this. So you're getting an increased 9% chance across the minor nodes, so it bumps up your chance of finding a Legion from 8 to 17%, which is still close to 1 in 5 maps. Protracted Battle makes it a lot easier to pop all the Legion mobs out, and this is particularly important if your gear is not the best, and if you're still trying to, gear up to the point where you can clear things very easily. This will pretty much every time allow you to pop out the entire Legion. You get a Warhorde for free every time a Legion pops up, which is amazing. And then Emblematic. The easiest way to think of Emblematic is that it's effectively doubling your splinters. A 1% chance for an emblem basically doubles the splinter drops. So these two combined is going to give you 2 to 3 times the normal amount of splinters that a Legion will. It's absolutely insane. And then here you have the Rogue Exile nodes. This was changed a little bit in this patch, and it's really insane. When you get the Rogue Exiles appearing in your map, it is a ton of free currency, and it adds up over time. But you usually get a few raw Chaos Orbs, and you can identify the Rogue Exiles because they have little reward icons above their head that make them look like the Legion mobs, right? They just look like they're Legion mobs that are roaming around in your maps, and they even have mini-map icons as well, so you can more easily identify them, but you get a lot of free currency from this. So for this reason, I think these two regions are the obvious ones to run. You can run them with Watchstones, Scarabs, or the Zana mod for essences in this case. You'll probably make a little more money, but you don't have to, right? You can just run these regions on their own, out and go, and you'll be making tons of extra passive profit. Now, the other two, I originally chose Lexajoris and Lyra Arthane. The Blight and the High stuff was very underwhelming, however, so I decided to spec out of it. If you're interested in beast farming, though, I hear this node is still decent, and you can still make some decent money from it, so it's something to consider. And Lexajoris, I was very disappointed in the Delirium and the Paranda stuff, so I've decided to drop it, but it's still decent. Paranda's coins will still sell for money, and for the same reason that the Heist markers here and blueprints you drop, they're still going to sell. So you can still make money out of these nodes. I just don't think they're as useful as they were supposed to be, or, not to the point where they're worth taking. So the ones I switched to are Glenach Cairns and Valdos. Now, in Glenach, we get 3 Legion nodes here. These are really good. You get another 10% chance for Legion, so you're still looking at that almost 1 in 5 chance to find a Legion when you're here. You get the old high-value targets. It's been nerfed, but it's still really good. And then you get a General. So I think the Legions in both areas are now really nice. They're not as insane as the old New Vestir, but they're both really nice, and you're going to see enough of them that you're going to make, quite a bit of extra money. And then I'm going to take the Incursion stuff here, and the reason for this is that whenever you're running Glenach for, to farm Conquerors and Maven stuff, you could just pop all your Incursion missions here. Now, The benefit of doing this, benefit of these two nodes is effectively that you're going to be upgrading all your rooms a lot faster. I don't have a Temple Chronicle to show off at the moment since I ran them all and sold the rest of them, but you pretty much end up with temples that are full of tier 3 rooms. You can get the double gem corrupts, the double item corrupts, all the valuable rooms, right? And sometimes you're going to end up with chronicles that are worth selling, that will sell for 2 to 3x, and it's not even that rare for that to happen. Other times you're just going to get a really nice chronicle with a tier 3 legion room, a tier 3 breach room, tier 3 currency room, tier 3 map room. You can go in, run the temple in about 2 minutes, and make a decent amount of currency. So I think this is really solid for a region. When I run out of incursion missions, I'm probably just going to then focus on doing other regions. Now, you may just want to swap this region after you've run out of incursion, because you could argue that once you lose this, it's kind of low value. You could switch to the Beyond stuff. Some people have told me that the Beyond stuff with this particular, going up through this branch with per demon, is good. I'm not sure, though. I haven't tested myself, and maybe that's something you want to figure out for yourself. But if you were going to drop it, you could probably go Lyra Arthane and do beast farming and spend all your Ironheart missions, and then by the time you're done spending all your Ironheart missions, maybe you want to switch back here and go back to Incursion. I'll explain how to transition between regions a little later on. And then lastly we're going to talk about Valdos. Valdos has a lot of good ways to make money, and so the way I have it set up now is for an extra 10% chance for a Metamorph encounter, just because Metamorph is really nice when it shows up. And the Harbinger stuff, it's been nerfed, but it's still good. You still make a decent amount of passive currency, you're still making Exalt Shards and Ancient Orbs every now and then. I wouldn't run this if you don't have an Inspired Learning or a Headhunter in your build, however, because otherwise it's going to take forever. You're going to end up taking 2 to 3 minutes extra to clear the map, just because if the Harbinger boss spawns in, it staggers the spawning of the Harbinger mobs in such a way, and it's spread out in such a way that they're both dangerous and they take a long time to get through. If you have a Headhunter and Inspired Learning, however, you can pretty much stand in the middle and just soak up all the buffs and clear it in under 30 seconds. At which point it's really worth doing. Now, if you weren't going to run the Harbinger stuff, what you could do is you could branch out and go for high yield and repeated experiment. This is going to make your Metamorphs more valuable, and it also opens up the ability to farm out City Square. So the way I would do that is, if you have gone these, don't run any of your City Square maps, just save them all up, and then periodically go and run them all at once with Polished Metamorph Scarabs. Essentially, the reason why you would run City Square with Metamorph is because it has 3 unique bosses, and that gives you 3 chances to get Eyes. Eyes are weighted to drop less than the other organs. Now, all the organs have different weightings, but Eyes are the rarest. Effectively, you can figure out what organs you are low on, and then pick that one. If you pick all 3 or you pick 2, it's going to randomly choose which organs to give you each time they drop. So typically, only put 1 unique organ into each Metamorph, and you would pick the Eyes most of the time and then not pick the other 2, and that will guarantee that you get Eyes. And then on top of that, running it with a Polished Metamorph Scarab and these 2 nodes, you will get 3 unique organ components out of each Metamorph you kill, and then you're able to make a second one after you kill the first one. So you're getting 6 unique Metamorph components per map from City Square with a Polished Metamorph Scarab in these nodes. And that's basically, for every 5 City Squares you run, you can do 6 Metamorphs in Tain's Lab, which is actually really insane value. I did this farming strategy last league, and I made a decent amount of money per hour doing that. It is a little bit involved, but you can still... it's still pretty good money, and I think it's probably going to be even more money now that a lot of the stuff that it drops is not devalued by 6-man parties, over farming things in Delirium maps. Now, as for the Betrayal stuff here and here, this basically just allows us to rank up all our Betrayal guys a lot faster, and this gives us intelligence if we're not interrogating, which is minor, but it's still worth something. And you basically would save up all your Betrayal missions and run them all in Valdo's Rest. Now, this was why I took this. Basically, by farming Hayward Hamlet, I'm constantly giving myself a good amount of Betrayal missions to run. And you basically, even when you run out, you'll be able to refill them very fast, right? And you can further complement this by taking this node here, which is going to increase the chance for an Atlas mission, but no big deal either way. Now, we'll talk about the Uncharted Realms passives. I think the most important ones that you want are Remnants of the Past and Adept Tracker. Adept Tracker lets you proc your Sirius's a lot faster, and Remnants of the Past greatly increases your chance for Guardian maps to drop, and since they're about 20C each, that's still really valuable. Now, after this, the next most important ones are probably Thaumaturgical Awakening and potentially Neural Pathways, but I'm not 100% sure. Close Allies is good too. Atlas Awakened is good too. I don't think anyone has exact drop rates of Awakener orbs with level 9 Awakener level, but it will let you pop your Atlas up to Awakening level 8 passively if you want to do it that way. So they're all good options. I just felt they're lower value than these two, and I can't particularly be bothered investing in the Feared at the moment, even though I would have absolutely no trouble doing it. You could take this if you wanted to do invitation farming, but that's an entirely separate strategy. Enduring Influence is decent if you want to reduce your maps, and Secrets of the Stones, I would only do this if you were going to do dedicated Watchstone farming, such as the Ritual farming in Hayward Hamlet. So those are pretty much your options. And basically what you can expect from this strategy is that you have a huge loot pool of jackpot drops and then also a lot of consistent loot. So when it comes to the Cirrus cycles, you're farming Awakened Skill Gems, you're farming Watchstones, the Cirrus unique drops, and the Awakener Orbs and Conqueror Exalts. They don't always drop, and as you can see here, I've been doing a few Cirrus cycles and I haven't gotten any, and this is unlucky, right? So this cap, when I got done doing this a lot of cycles, it was at 800C per hour, and that was unlucky because I didn't even drop any of the valuable orbs, right? Additionally, you've got all the Maven stuff, which is really nice additional profit. If you were to basically take an average of what you're getting, you're usually getting 2 Crescent Splinters, you're getting an Orb of Unmaking, you're getting your Watchstones. It usually comes out to making each map you run that fills up 1 bar on the 10 bar cycle, makes each map worth like an additional 3 to 5C, and sometimes more. Also, when you run those 10 boss invitationals, you can get Guardian maps dropping also, and they drop more often than not, so that bumps it up even further. Sometimes your maps are worth 8C just for completion because of this. And when you run all of these things together, and you're also running Ultimatum in every map, you're just getting so much currency, and you're getting such a wide variety of easily liquidatable currency, right? So like fossils are a little bit harder to liquidate. Essence is admittedly a little harder to liquidate. Contracts, blueprints, sure. And you can't always, but they're not the main part of what you're farming here. A lot of what you're farming are just big, high in demand drops that are going to sell very easily, drops that you can liquidate very easily. And it's just consistent. And the loot pool is so varied across the big drops that, even if you get unlucky on, say, the Conqueror Exalts and the Awakener Orbs, you're still getting the Awakened Skill Gems, right? You're still getting good amounts of currency, blighted maps. You almost get a full Maven's Writ from just a couple of Cirrus cycles. Get tons of Splinters, tons of Scarabs, stack decks. It's very hard to go wrong doing this strategy, and it's something I would recommend to pretty much everyone who is out there wondering how they're going to make money because they aren't particularly interested in doing some high investment Watchstone strategy or Guardian invitation farming. Simply Alch and Go mapping with the Awakener 7 strategy will guarantee that you can make 5 Exalts an hour without really having any particularly high knowledge of the game, without really investing into anything. And it's just, if you're new to the game, even if you're a veteran and you just can't be bothered, 5x per hour is very solid money. In an 8-hour session, that's about 40x. I did this strategy on stream the other day for about 8 hours, and I was distracted for a lot of it talking to stream. I wasn't even blasting as hard as I could, and we farmed up 30x to afford this ring, just to give an idea. We didn't get any particularly lucky drops during that stream, and it was a lot slower than you could do it. And then this morning, off stream, I did 800C per hour still with no lucky drops. And I think that just goes to show how much of an effective strategy it is. Now, the other thing is that a lot of strategies, such as a Grand Heist video I put out, they get devalued over time. Simply putting that video out, there are going to be extra people running it that devalues it quicker. And the other thing is that if you wanted to run it, you got to run it at the start of a league because it falls off in profitability anyway, regardless of whether people know about the strategy or not. This is a strategy that, for as long as we have the Maven passives and Cirrus cycles, this strategy is going to be relevant. I did this strategy at the start of last league until we got our Delirium map going, and I did it again this league, and it's always going to work. It's always going to be relevant. There's no way really that people are going to watch this video or see some other content creator doing it and devalue the hell out of the profit margins. It's just the loot variety is so large that There's no way to really... It's basically just farming the Atlas more efficiently than other players. That's all it is. It's not like you're hyper-focused on, you know, farming a very particular type of item like alt gems, which are then going to get devalued when it goes from 1 being on the market to 20. These are just items that are already on the market in the hundreds and the thousands. It's just that you're farming them slightly more well, much more efficiently than what other players are doing. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was useful to many of you, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking me for it and wondering, you know, how we're pulling out net worth like this. And really, it's really just this simple. You don't have to do any work. The only thing you have to remember to do is when you go to run Cirrus, you put all your Watchstones back in to pop yourself back up to Awakener 8 so that you have the higher chance of dropping an Awakener orb. And then when you're done with Cirrus, you can take them all out. Now, as for proccing your Conquerors, one last thing, right? So when you proc your Conquerors, the probably most efficient way to do it is to proc them all in different regions. That way you can put all your Watchstones in and run all your Conquerors on 8 and Cirrus on 8 and then take them out all at once. Or you can pop them in and out after each Conqueror. Say you want to run, you know, 2 Hayward Hamlets in that Cirrus cycle, but that's totally up to you. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. It's just depends on how much you're willing to micromanage the Watchstones and how you want to farm your map. But yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you all have a good day.